There's a special kind of exhaustion that comes from being everywhere and mattering nowhere. You know it. You feel it. You wake up tired not because you did nothing, but because you did everything. You posted, you messaged, you hustled, you showed up, you performed, and still silence. Still nothing. Still invisible. You're not lazy. You're not weak. You're not failing because you're not trying. You're failing because you're trying everything. And in trying everything, you've become nothing to anyone. Let me tell you what nobody's telling you. The world doesn't reward effort. It rewards focus. It doesn't celebrate the busy. It remembers the obsessed. You can work 18 hours a day and still be forgotten by lunch. You can create 100 things and still be known for nothing. Because attention without direction is just noise. Motion without meaning is just exhaustion. And right now, you're moving so fast in so many directions that nobody can see you clearly enough to remember your name. You feel it, don't you? That ache in your chest when you scroll and see someone half as talented getting 10 times the attention. That bitterness when you compare your effort to their results. That quiet rage when you realize you've been working harder than people who are winning, and somehow they still don't see you. They don't know you exist. And the worst part, you're starting to wonder if you exist at all. If all this work, all this grinding, all this pouring out means anything to anyone, you're confused. Not because you don't know what to do, but because you're doing too much. You've scattered yourself across so many platforms, so many projects, so many identities that you don't even know who you are anymore. Are you the writer, the entrepreneur, the creator, the helper, the friend who's always available? You've become a shapeshifter, molding yourself to fit every space, every expectation, every opportunity. And in becoming everything, you've lost the one thing that makes people stop and pay attention. Yourself. Here's the brutal truth. You're not invisible because you're not good enough. You're invisible because you're not distinct enough. You blend, you fade. You're background music in a world that only remembers the main act. And the reason isn't talent. It's not luck. It's not timing. It's focus, or the lack of it. You're split, divided, fractured into 1,000 pieces, trying to serve 1,000 masters, and wondering why none of them remember your face. You've been rejected so many times you've stopped counting, ghosted by opportunities, overlooked by people who should have seen you, passed over for chances you deserved. And each time, you told yourself the same lie. I just need to try harder. I just need to do more. I just need to be everywhere. So you did. You stretched yourself thinner. You said yes to everything. You showed up to every space. And you disappeared even more. The pain is real. It's not in your head. You're not being dramatic. You feel like you're screaming into a void and nobody's turning around. You feel like you're running a race where the finish line keeps moving. You feel like you're building something in the dark and nobody's coming to see it when the lights turn on. You're tired of being the best kept secret. Tired of hearing you're so talented from people who never share your work. Tired of giving everything and getting nothing back. And somewhere along the way, you started seeking approval. Not consciously, not intentionally, but you did. You started creating for the algorithm instead of the art. You started speaking for the crowd instead of the truth. You started shaping your message to fit what's trending instead of what's true to you. And every time you did that, you lost a piece of yourself. Every time you bent to be light, you became less like you. And the cruel irony, the more you tried to please everyone, the less anyone cared. There's an emptiness now. A hollow space where your identity used to be. You used to know what you stood for. You used to have a vision. You used to feel fire when you thought about your purpose. Now you're just tired. Now you're just confused. Now you're just wondering if any of this matters. You've wasted time chasing every shiny object, every new opportunity, every open door. And none of them led anywhere because they weren't your doors. They were just distractions dressed up as destiny. You don't know your direction anymore. You're moving, yes. You're busy, absolutely. But movement isn't progress. Being busy isn't being effective. You're like a car spinning its wheels in mud, burning fuel, making noise, going nowhere. And the worst part? You can feel it. You can feel yourself sinking deeper. You can feel the years slipping by. You can feel the gap growing between where you are and where you thought you'd be by now. Your identity is broken, fractured. You've tried on so many versions of yourself that you don't know which one is real anymore. You've performed so many roles that you've forgotten your actual name. You've worn so many masks that your face feels foreign. And the people around you, they don't know you either. They know the version you showed them, the performance, the highlight reel, but not you, not the real you. Because even you don't know who that is anymore. But here's what you need to understand. Here's the truth that will either break you or rebuild you. Greatness is not found in doing more. It's found in doing less, better, deeper, longer. The people who change the world, who shift culture, who become undeniable, they're not the ones doing everything. They're the ones doing one thing so well, so consistently, so powerfully, that the world has no choice but to notice. Think about a magnifying glass. In your hand, it's just a piece of glass, harmless, ordinary. But hold it still under the sun. Focus that light into one concentrated point, and suddenly it burns. It cuts. It creates fire from nothing but focused energy. The sun was always there. The glass was always there. But nothing happened until the energy stopped scattering and started concentrating. That's you. You have the energy, you have the light, but you're moving the glass. You're shifting. You're trying to burn 100 holes at once, and you're burning nothing. Or think about a river. Water is soft, flexible, weak, some would say. But send that water in one direction, give it one path, one relentless flow, and over time it carves through stone. It reshapes mountains. It creates canyons that last for millennia, not because it tried to go everywhere, but because it committed to one direction and refused to stop. You are that water. But right now, you're a puddle, spread thin, evaporating under the heat of distraction, going nowhere because you're trying to go everywhere. The blacksmith knows something you've forgotten. He knows that metal doesn't melt from being touched by fire. It melts from being held in fire, sustained heat, concentrated temperature, uninterrupted intensity. He doesn't wave the flame around. He doesn't heat 100 pieces at once. He focuses the forge on one blade, one piece, and he keeps it there until the metal surrenders, until it transforms, until it becomes something new. You've been waving the flame, touching everything, heating nothing, and wondering why nothing changes. Here's the principle most people never learn. You were designed by a manufacturer. You didn't create yourself. You didn't wire your own brain, build your own gifts, install your own passions. Something bigger than you did that. And when a manufacturer builds something, they build it for a specific function. A hammer is not a screwdriver. A knife is not a spoon. And you are not general purpose. You are specific. You have specific wiring, specific design, specific gifts that only work when you stop trying to be everything and accept what you actually are. But we've been lied to. We've been sold this idea that we can be anything, do anything, have anything. And it sounds empowering until you realize it's a trap. Because when you try to be everything, you master nothing. When you chase every opportunity, you catch none. When you say yes to everything, your yes means nothing. The most dangerous enemy of great is not bad, it's good. It's the good opportunity that distracts you from the right one. It's the good project that keeps you from the great one. It's the good identity that prevents you from stepping into your real one. You can't be everything, so you must be something. And that choice, that narrowing, that focus, it feels like death. It feels like you're killing opportunities, like you're closing doors, like you're limiting yourself, and you are. You're killing the versions of yourself that were never supposed to live. You're closing doors that were never yours to walk through. You're limiting yourself to your actual design instead of the fantasy of being limitless. And that limitation, that's where your power lives. Multitasking is a myth. Your brain doesn't do two things at once. It switches rapidly, exhaustingly. And every time it switches, you lose momentum, you lose depth. You lose the flow state where real magic happens. You think you're being efficient. You think you're maximizing your time, but you're fracturing your attention. You're training yourself to be shallow, to skim surfaces, to never go deep enough to find anything worth finding. And people pleasing, that's not kindness. That's cowardice. You think you're being generous by showing up for everyone, by saying yes to every request, by molding yourself to fit every expectation. But you're not being generous. You're being afraid. Afraid of rejection. Afraid of disappointing. Afraid that if you show people who you really are, they'll leave. So you show them whoever they want to see. And they do leave. Because nobody bonds with a mirror. Nobody remembers a chameleon. Nobody follows someone who stands for everything. Because standing for everything means standing for nothing. Approval addiction will kill everything real in you. It'll kill your voice because you'll start saying what gets likes instead of what's true. It'll kill your art because you'll start creating what trends instead of what matters. It'll kill your relationships because you'll start performing instead of connecting. And it'll kill your soul because you'll trade who you are for who they want and discover too late that who they wanted wasn't even real. It was just a projection, a fantasy, and you sacrificed yourself for it. Focus is not about addition. It's about subtraction. It's about elimination. It's about looking at your life and asking not what else can I do, but what can I stop doing? What can I cut? What can I kill? Because every yes to the wrong thing is a no to the right thing. Every hour spent on distraction is an hour stolen from your destiny. Every ounce of energy poured into something that doesn't align is energy you'll never get back. You were not built to be scattered. You were built to be a weapon, sharp, precise, deadly in one specific way. But a weapon that tries to cut in every direction cuts nothing. A blade that tries to be a hammer breaks. You have to accept your edge, your angle, your specific lethality. And then you have to sharpen it, not by doing more, but by removing everything that dulls it. There's a seed buried in soil right now. It's dark down there, cold, isolated. And that seed has a choice, theoretically. It could try to become a tree and a flower and a bush all at once. It could split its energy, divide its resources, attempt to please every possibility. But it doesn't. That seed knows something you've forgotten. It knows its design. It doesn't waste a single ounce of energy on what it's not. It sends one root down, one stem up. It focuses every bit of its life force on becoming the one thing it was coded to be. And because it doesn't scatter, it breaks through. It rises. It becomes undeniable. You are that seed, but you've been trying to become a forest all by yourself, trying to grow in every direction, trying to be oak and rose and willow simultaneously. And you're exhausting yourself underground. You're spending all your energy on internal confusion instead of upward growth. And nothing's breaking through. Not because you're weak, but because you're divided. There's a lion cub learning to hunt. In the beginning, everything moves and everything looks like prey. The birds, the insects, the rodents, the antelopes. And the cub chases all of it. Running in circles. Burning energy, catching nothing. But watch what happens as the cub matures. It stops. It observes. It learns to focus. It picks one target, one animal, and it commits. It doesn't care about the birds anymore. It doesn't get distracted by movement in the periphery. It locks in. And when it locks in, it becomes dangerous. It becomes a hunter. Not because it chased everything, but because it learned to chase one thing completely. You've been chasing everything. Every opportunity that moved. Every platform that promised reach. Every strategy that looked like it might work. And you've caught nothing. Not because you're not fast enough or strong enough, but because you never committed long enough to any one thing to see it through. You never focused long enough to become lethal. You've been a cub chasing shadows, and it's time to become a hunter. There's a craftsman in a workshop. He's been offered a dozen projects. He could make chairs and tables and cabinets and sculptures. He could fill his shop with 100 half-finished pieces and call himself productive. But he doesn't. He takes one piece of metal, one blade, and he begins. He heats it. He hammers it. He folds it. He grinds it. He sharpens it. Day after day after day. The same blade. The same focus. And when he's done, he doesn't have 100 mediocre things. He has one masterpiece. One blade so sharp, so balanced, so perfect that people travel to see it. That's focus. That's mastery. That's what happens when you stop trying to make everything and commit to making one thing unforgettable. Before I continue, answer one question honestly. If you died today, what would people say you were known for? Not what you tried, not what you started, but what you actually finished, what you actually mastered. What singular thing you became so associated with that your name and that thing are inseparable? Can you answer that? Or is the answer a long list of almost, a resume of unfinished, a gallery of things you touched but never transformed? If you're still listening, something inside you is waking up. Something that's tired of being scattered. Something that's hungry for clarity. Something that knows you were meant for more than motion. You were meant for impact. And impact doesn't come from being everywhere. It comes from being unmistakable in one place. Here's what happens when you finally choose. When you finally narrow your aim. When you finally stop trying to be everything and commit to being something. You sharpen in silence. You eliminate in silence. You become dangerous in silence. The noise stops. The distraction fades. And for the first time in years, you see clearly. You see the one path, the one project, the one message, the one audience, the one thing that when you do it, you feel alive, not drained, not performative, alive. And you start to cut away. You start saying no, not rudely, not arrogantly, but firmly. No to the good opportunities that aren't the right ones. No to the projects that don't align. No to the people who want the version of you that isn't real. And every no feels like loss at first. Feels like you're shrinking. Feels like you're missing out, but you're not shrinking. You're concentrating. You're becoming dense, solid, unshakable. You grow in silence. Not in the comments. Not in the notifications. Not in the applause. You grow when nobody's watching. When you're alone with your craft. When you're refining your message. When you're sharpening your skills. When you're eliminating the unnecessary and strengthening the essential. The world doesn't see this part. They don't see the hours, the reps, the failures, the adjustments. They only see the result, and they call it luck. You heal in silence. You heal from the need to be seen, from the addiction to approval, from the fear of being forgotten. You heal when you stop performing and start creating. When you stop asking, will they like this, and start asking, is this true? When you stop chasing validation and start building value. And that healing, that's not comfortable. It's lonely, it's scary, but it's necessary. Because you can't become undeniable while you're still desperate to be noticed. You rise in silence, not with announcements, not with declarations, not with loud promises about what you're going to do. You rise by doing it, by showing up to the same thing every single day, by getting 1% better at one thing instead of staying the same at 100 things, by building a body of work so consistent, so focused, so undeniable, that eventually people can't help but see it. Can't help but share it. Can't help but remember your name. The people who win, who break through, who become unforgettable, they're not more talented than you. They're more focused than you. They're not working harder. They're working narrower. They're not doing more things. They're doing one thing more deeply than anyone else is willing to go. And that depth, that's where the magic lives. That's where the breakthrough happens. That's where you stop being invisible and start being inevitable. Focus is a filter. It filters out distraction. It filters out noise. It filters out the people who don't need to be in your life and the projects that don't need to be in your calendar. And what's left? What remains after the filtering? Your real work, your real voice, your real path. And it's clearer than it's ever been, not because new information arrived, but because the clutter finally left. And now you stand at a threshold. You can feel it. This isn't just another motivational moment that fades by tomorrow. This is different. This is the edge of something. The end of one season and the beginning of another. Your season of being everywhere and mattering nowhere is ending, but only if you choose it. Only if you make the decision right now that you will no longer scatter yourself like seeds in a storm. Only if you decide that from this moment forward, you will be known for one thing, mastered in one area, undeniable in one space. The future you're afraid to believe in is waiting, not the future where you do everything, the future where you own something. Where your name becomes synonymous with one thing so completely that when people need that thing, they don't search, they come to you. They don't compare, they don't shop around, they know. Because you focus so intensely, so consistently, so relentlessly on that one thing that you become the only option, not the best option, the only one. But let me tell you what that requires. Let me tell you what focus actually costs. It costs you the comfort of options. It costs you the safety of backup plans. It costs you the ego boost of being involved in everything. Because focus is not addition, it's assassination. It's killing the good to protect the great. It's looking at opportunities that other people would die for and saying no because they're not your opportunities. They're distractions, wearing the mask of destiny. You're going to have to disappoint people. People who expect you to show up everywhere. People who've gotten used to your availability. People who like the version of you that bent and flexed and accommodated. They're going to feel abandoned. They're going to call you selfish. They're going to say you've changed. And they're right. You have changed. You've stopped being everyone's option and started becoming someone's answer. And that transformation requires you to let go of hands that were never holding you up. They were holding you back. You're going to have to kill projects. Good projects. Projects you started with excitement. Projects that still have potential. But potential isn't enough anymore. Potential without alignment is just distraction with promise. You're going to have to look at your list of things you're working on and delete most of it. Not pause it, not put it on hold, delete it, because every project that's not the one is stealing time, energy, focus, and momentum from the one that could actually change everything. This is where most people fail. Not at the starting. Everyone starts. Not at the working. Everyone works. They fail at the narrowing. They fail at the killing. They fail when it's time to choose one path and let the others die. Because it feels like loss. It feels like you're giving up. It feels like you're limiting your potential. And you are. You're limiting your potential to be mediocre at many things, so you can unleash your potential to be exceptional at one thing. The world is noisier than it's ever been. More content, more creators, more voices, more competition. And in that noise, the only way to be heard is to be singular, to be so focused on your message, your craft, your lane, that you cut through the static like a signal that can't be ignored. The people who try to be everything get drowned out. The people who commit to being one thing become unavoidable. Think about the people you admire, the ones who've actually made it, the ones whose names mean something. They're not known for doing everything. They're known for owning one thing, one style, one message, one skill, one approach. And they committed to it so completely that now it's theirs. Nobody else can have it. Nobody else can replicate it because they didn't just do it. They became it. They merged with it. Their identity and their focus became inseparable. That's what's available to you. Not someday. Not when conditions are perfect. Not when you have more time or more resources or more support. Now, today, this moment, you can make the decision right now that you will no longer be a generalist. You will no longer be scattered. You will no longer try to appeal to everyone. You will choose your thing, your one thing, and you will give it everything. Not what's left over after you've served everyone else. Everything. And here's what happens when you do. Here's what happens when you finally stop running in circles and start running in one direction. You gain momentum, real momentum. Not the fake momentum of being busy, but the unstoppable momentum of compounding progress. Because when you do the same thing every day, you get better at it. When you get better at it, you get faster. When you get faster, you produce more. When you produce more, people notice. When people notice, opportunities come. When opportunities come, you say no to most of them. And you say yes to the ones that make you even more focused, even more sharp, even more undeniable. Your name starts to carry weight. Not because you paid for ads, not because you gamed the algorithm, but because you built a reputation, a real one. The kind that comes from showing up to the same place with the same excellence for so long that people start to trust you, start to rely on you, start to recommend you without being asked. Because you're not confusing anymore. You're not scattered. You're not trying to be everything. You are something, something specific, something valuable, something they can count on. And the invisibility that haunted you for years, it evaporates. Not overnight, but steadily, surely, because focus has a compound effect. The first month, nothing changes. The third month, small shifts. The sixth month, people start noticing. The first year, you're building momentum. The second year, you're becoming known. The third year, you're undeniable. But only if you don't switch. Only if you don't get distracted halfway through and start chasing something else. Only if you hold the magnifying glass still long enough for the fire to start. Most people quit right before the breakthrough. They focus for 3 months and see small results and think it's not working. So they pivot. They try something new. They scatter again. And they reset the clock back to zero. They never stay in one place long enough to see what happens when focus becomes mastery. When mastery becomes reputation. When reputation becomes legacy. You will be tempted. Oh, you will be tempted. Every week, a new opportunity will present itself. A new platform. A new trend. A new strategy. A new door that looks wide open. And it will whisper to you, maybe this is the one. Maybe this is the shortcut. Maybe this is what you've been missing. And you'll feel the pull. The urge to try it, to explore it, to add it to your list. And that's the test. That's where you prove whether you're serious, whether you're focused, whether you're willing to say no to good so you can stay committed to great. Focus is not a sprint. It's not a 3-month challenge. It's a lifestyle. It's a commitment. It's a decision you make every single day to stay in your lane, to sharpen your blade, to deepen your well. And some days it feels boring. Some days it feels repetitive. Some days you look at other people doing new exciting things and you feel like you're missing out. You're not missing out. You're building. And building is repetitive. It's unglamorous. It's the same bricks, the same work, the same focus, day after day, until one day you look up and realize you've built something nobody can ignore. There's a version of your future where you're still scattered 5 years from now, still trying everything, still chasing every opportunity, still busy, still exhausted, still invisible. That version exists. It's real. It's the default path. The path of least resistance. The path most people take because it feels safer. Because it feels like you're doing something. Because it lets you avoid the scariest decision of all. The decision to commit. But there's another version. A version where 5 years from now, your name means something. Where people seek you out. Where opportunities come to you instead of you chasing them. Where you're known for one thing so completely that you don't have to market yourself anymore. You are the market. That version exists too. But it only happens if you choose it today. If you make the cut today. If you narrow the focus today. If you kill the distractions today. You were made for this, not for the scattered life, not for the invisible grind. You were made to be undeniable. To be so good at your thing that people can't look away. To be so committed to your path that people can't help but follow. To be so clear in your identity that people know exactly who you are and what you stand for the moment they encounter you. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. That's you finally becoming who you were designed to be all along. The manufacturer who made you didn't build you to be generic, didn't wire you to be average, didn't code you to blend in. You were built to stand out, but not by trying to do everything. By mastering one thing, by focusing so completely on your specific design that you become the best expression of it the world has ever seen. That's your destiny. Not to be famous, not to be liked by everyone, but to be undeniable in your space, unforgettable in your lane, irreplaceable in your function. And it starts now. Not when you feel ready, not when you have it all figured out, not when the fear goes away. Now, afraid, uncertain, imperfect. You start now by making one decision. What is the one thing? What is the thing that when you do it, you lose track of time? What is the thing that when you talk about it, you come alive? What is the thing that when you imagine yourself 5 years from now having mastered it, you feel electricity in your chest? That thing, that's your focus, that's your path, that's your lane. And once you identify it, you protect it like your life depends on it. Because it does. Your real life, not the scattered, exhausting life you've been living. Your real life, the one where you matter, where you're seen, where you're valued, where your name carries weight. That life is on the other side of focus. And the door is open, but you have to walk through it. You have to leave the old version of you behind. The version that tried to be everything. The version that said yes to everyone. The version that scattered itself into invisibility. This is your moment. The moment where everything changes. Not because circumstances changed. Not because opportunities appeared. But because you decided. You decided that being everywhere and mattering nowhere is no longer acceptable. You decided that from this moment forward, you will be known for one thing. You decided to focus until they can't ignore you. Now go. Choose your thing. Kill everything else. And don't look back. If this message spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs hope today. And if you want more messages that grow your soul, subscribe because your journey has just begun. You're standing at the edge right now. Not metaphorically, literally. You can feel it in your chest. That tightness, that knowing, that voice that's been whispering for months, maybe years, that something has to change. And today that whisper became a shout. Today you heard it clearly. You can't keep living like this, scattered, stretched, invisible, despite all your effort. Something has to die so something else can live. And what has to die is the version of you that thinks more is better. That thinks being everywhere is the strategy. That thinks if you just try harder, hustle longer, show up to more places, eventually someone will notice. They won't. Not until you become someone worth noticing. And you don't become that by addition. You become that by subtraction. By cutting away everything that dilutes you. By eliminating every distraction that keeps you comfortable but keeps you mediocre. By killing opportunities that look good on paper but don't align with your design. This is not about working harder. This is about working truer. This is about finally having the courage to stop performing for everyone and start building for the one thing you were made to do. You know what it is. You've always known. It's that thing you keep coming back to. That thing you think about when you're alone. That thing you dream about building but keep putting off because you're too busy with everything else. That thing that makes you feel most like yourself. Most alive. Most aligned. That's not a hobby. That's not a side interest. That's your assignment. That's the thing you were wired for. That's the focus that will make you undeniable. But here's what's going to happen the moment you commit to it. The moment you decide to go all in on that one thing, everything in you is going to resist. Your brain is going to panic. It's going to flood you with fear. Fear that you're making the wrong choice. Fear that you're closing doors. Fear that you're limiting yourself. Fear that you're going to miss out on something better. And you have to understand that fear is not a sign you're making the wrong decision. It's a sign you're making a real one. A decision with weight. A decision that costs something. A decision that changes the trajectory of your entire life. And you're going to be lonely. Let me prepare you for that. Because when you stop showing up everywhere, when you stop saying yes to everyone, when you stop being the person who's always available, always accommodating, always flexible, people are going to distance themselves. Not because they hate you, but because they don't recognize you anymore. You were useful when you were scattered. You were convenient when you had no boundaries. And now that you're focused, now that you're protecting your time, your energy, your attention, they don't know what to do with you. Let them go. They were never your people. They were just people who benefited from your lack of focus. Your real people, the ones who are supposed to walk with you, they'll show up when you become clear. When you stop being everything to everyone and start being something specific to the right ones. Those people don't need you to be scattered. They need you to be sharp. They need you to be excellent. They need you to be so good at your thing that it lifts them too. And they won't find you until you find yourself. Until you stop hiding in the crowd of generalists and step into your specific lane. There's going to be a gap, a valley, a season where you've let go of the old, but the new hasn't fully formed yet. Where you've said no to distractions, but the results of focus haven't shown up yet. That season is brutal. That's where most people turn back. They feel the discomfort of transition and they interpret it as failure. They think focus isn't working because they don't see immediate results. So they go back to scattering, back to trying everything, back to being busy and invisible. Don't do that. Stay in the gap. Trust the process. Trust that seeds planted in focus will eventually break through soil, but not on your timeline, on their own. You don't need anyone's permission to focus. You don't need validation. You don't need someone to tell you it's okay to let things go, to say no, to disappoint people, to choose yourself. You're waiting for permission that's never coming. You're waiting for someone to give you the green light to finally commit to your thing. And while you wait, years are passing. Opportunities are closing. Your window is shrinking. Stop waiting. Give yourself permission. Decide right now that you are allowed to be focused. You are allowed to be selfish with your time. You are allowed to build your thing, even if nobody understands it yet. And when you do, when you finally commit, document everything. Not for content, not for validation, but for yourself. Because there will be days, hard days, when you question whether this focus thing is real, whether it's working, whether you made the right choice. And on those days, you'll need evidence. You'll need to look back and see how far you've come. See the progress. See the growth. See the compounding. Because focus doesn't scream. It whispers. It builds quietly. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss the small wins that eventually become the big breakthrough. 5 years from now, one of two stories will be true. In one story, you're still scattered. Still trying to be everything. Still exhausted. Still invisible. Still wondering why it's not working despite all your effort. That story is real. It happens to most people. Because most people never commit. They flirt with focus. They try for a season. But they never marry it. They never go all in. And so they spend decades being good at nothing instead of exceptional at one thing. But there's another story. The one where 5 years from now, you look back at today as the day everything changed. The day you stopped running in circles and started running in one direction. The day you stopped being scattered and started being dangerous. The day you decided to focus until they couldn't ignore you. And in that story, your life looks completely different. Your name means something. Your work speaks for itself. You don't chase opportunities anymore. They come to you. You don't beg for attention anymore. You command it, not because you got louder, but because you got clearer. That story is available, but it requires a decision. One decision, made today, made now. Not a decision to try harder. A decision to focus sharper. Not a decision to do more. A decision to do less, better, longer. Not a decision to be everything. A decision to be something. One thing, your thing. The thing you were made for. The thing that when you do it, the world feels right. The thing that makes you undeniable. So choose right now. What's the one thing? Say it out loud. Write it down. Commit to it. And then protect it like it's the most valuable thing in your life. Because it is. It's your focus, your path, your identity, your future. Everything you've been searching for is on the other side of that commitment. On the other side of that focus. On the other side of finally, staying still long enough for the fire to start. Focus until they can't ignore you. That's not just a message. That's your mission. That's your life. Starting now.